UFC 314 was this past weekend. I'm going to be giving my entire breakdown and recap of the entire card, starting with the very early prelim all the way to the main event. Guys, UFC's been saved. Alright? We needed this. This card in our lives for many reasons. And we finally got here. This needed to happen. I needed this in my life, personally, guys. We're going to start off with the very early prelim opener of Nora Canol versus Haley Cowan. Now, obviously, we got to move past some of these a little more quick. Nora Canol, first round was kind of dull. On the feet, she was a little more successful. You could tell she has more power and she was more comfortable on the feet. Haley Cowan, I mean, she landed a few strikes here and there. They both kind of did, and then they just kind of got into some grappling exchanges. A lot of holding against the cage, and then I believe Cowan got a takedown, and then Nora Canol nearly got the armbar off her back, didn't get it, and then in the second round, Canol ended up getting I'm trying to remember what she submitted Haley Cowan with. I know it was something else. It might have been by rear naked choke. I can't even remember. Because I'm thinking about the other big fights in the card, but I mean, this wasn't a terrible fight. It was pretty funny though, because they were like, the crowd was booing them about 2.5 minutes in, and the commentary team was like, I don't know why this crowd's booing. Like, this is great action, and they're just laying on the ground with each other, and then they immediately start spending the next minute talking about Israel Adesanya's KO over Alex Pereira from 2 years ago, literally proving the audience's point. Like, they're not even talking about the fight. So, yeah, it was pretty funny. But, I mean, good win from Nora Canol. She missed weight, though. Again, like, she's, 2-3-1 in the UFC? Like, 2 of those she's missed weight for. So, she won a lot of her Muay Thai, accomplishments. She's, like, a world champion, or, like, a silver champion in Muay Thai. And she's competed in tournaments before. She only started training MMA 4 years ago. So it's pretty impressive that she's actually had a couple wins by submission now. And she's showing that ability, clearly. So she's showing improvement. She just has to make the weight now. And then maybe we can actually start looking at her as a prospect. But good win from Nora Canol. That's about it. Moving up the card. Marco Tulio versus Tresean Gore. All right, now this is an awesome fight. Tresean Gore, super tough. Please keep him in the UFC, Dana White. I mean, this is a great fight, and he's so tough. I mean, Tresean Gore just had his hands up, no head movement. I mean, literally no head movement whatsoever. But he had his hands up the whole time, kind of walking into shots, and he showed toughness and he showed grit, and he landed a really good hook. I believe it was a check hook on Marco Tulio, and Tulio got rocked and took a few steps backwards, and you could tell he was wobbling a little bit. But still, besides that, Marco Tulio looked amazing. He put on an absolute clinic. I think he landed, I mean, let's look at the strike stats here. Tresean Gore landed 17 strikes. Marco Tulio had 140 total strikes, and this fight got ended in like the early middle range of the second round. And 127 significant strikes. He knocked him down twice. Tulio was absolutely putting a clinic on him. He was going in with these crazy elbows. He was fighting similar to the Fighting Nerds. He's Brazilian, but he just had absolute control. He dominated, and Gore was very, very tough, but he just was not moving his head whatsoever. I mean, he literally was just walking directly into the shots of Marco Tulio, continuously moving forward. So shows toughness, because Tulio, you could tell, had power in his shots. It just took you can't take all those shots all day. You just can't. You're gonna have to catch him earlier if you're gonna do that. Which Gore caught him occasionally, but just was never able to really get an advantage. So it was an absolute domination, one-way street the whole time. Marco Tulio, a legit prospect at middleweight. I believe now 2-0 in the UFC. He has a lot of potential, and he's going to be very, very, very good. He wanted Vittori. Doesn't make sense, obviously, but he should definitely start getting some looks against real opponents at middleweight from now on, I think. Moving up the card, Please keep Trajan Gore in the UFC. We need some fun fights. Mutareji versus Mitraposo. All right, Mitraposo putting on his best Mario Bautista impression. Did not throw a single strike pretty much. I mean, he threw 13 significant strikes. So, yeah, I mean, essentially didn't throw a strike. Wasn't intending to do damage on Mutareji. God, guys, I'm such a white kid. But Mitraposo, I just don't understand how this was even a split decision. Like, the first round was Mitraposo's. Second round was Mutareji's. Third round, Mutareji's. He was landing elbows off his back. He was landing better on the feet. It wasn't a good win from Mutareji, but Mitraposo wasn't doing any sort of damage whatsoever. He only won the first round. There was no way he won the final two in my eyes. He didn't do any damage, and he was basically just Mario Bautista his weighing through the fight. So, it was pretty bad performance from Mitraposo in terms of what we want as actual fight fans. We don't want to see, you try to take him down, you fail, and then you just try to get another takedown. You don't even, throw strikes in the clinch. You don't throw even knees against the thigh, because I guess that's an important strike now, because Merab has made it one by his success. But Mitraposo was just holding him. Torres Finney style, if you know what I mean. And Mutareji just landed better strikes on the the feet. It still wasn't a great win. He was just kind of tippy-tappy on the outside, but did more than Mitraposo. Who gives a shit? Moving up the card. Cedric Dumas versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Oleksiejczuk dominated. No one else had a problem with the stoppage other than Cedric Dumas. That thug got what he deserved. All right. And before you say anything, this dude has 27 mug shots or something, or I don't know. He's been on a bunch of charges with battery, and yeah. Dumas is a terrible person, and he's a fucking criminal. I don't understand how he's in the UFC, because he's not even that good. But Mikhail Oleksiejczuk showed the level. He's been training with the Fighting Nerds. He fought Kyle Barajo before. Now he's since that fight, he's been training with the Fighting Nerds for this camp, and obviously he had a lot of success. He looked very, very good. And good win from Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. He needed that. He needed that in his career. And I really like Paul Craig. I really like that call out. I like that matchup for him. Fun veterans fight. High unranked middleweight territory. And hiccups. It puts Oleksiejczuk in a good position. So, and he's only lost to good fighters. So, I think that's a good matchup for Oleksiejczuk. Cedric Dumas should get cut. To be brutally honest, I never really thought he was that good. And yeah, I mean, he's not that good. And no one else had a problem with the stoppage. The fact that he actually thought it was a bad stoppage when he just was laying on the ground. You got to do more than just take shots and cover up if you want the fight to not be stopped. You can't just lay there. I don't give a shit if they don't hurt you. You can't just lay there and take shots. The fight's going to get stopped. Whatever. Moving up the card. Good one from Oleksiejczuk. Darren Elkins versus Julian Erosa. Oh, this one was hard to watch. I don't understand. It took the ref way too long to stop this fight. Way too long. It was literally like I was watching just elder abuse in the octagon. It was really sad. Darren Elkins looked bad, and he looked old, and he looked like he should never fight again. He looked really bad. That was the worst I've ever seen him. And if Julian Erosa is going to do that to you, I don't think you should be in the UFC. And then we gotta think about this too. Darren Elkins got dropped, or he fell over in the first 10 seconds, right? It was 10 seconds in. Erosa throws a jab. Jesus. Erosa throws a jab, and Elkins falls off balance, and just immediately falls over. And I was like, oh my god, he just dropped him with a jab. And it was kind of off balance, but knowing what we know now, it might have not been. He might have actually just gotten hurt by that. And he definitely got concussed. I mean, I think he got hit in the side of the head really, really hard. And he was concussed from there on. I think he was concussed from there on. And it was really affecting the fight. So I really don't think... it didn't look good for Darren Elkins, and yeah, Julian Erosa put him away. Fight could have been stopped a minute in. Honestly, I didn't want to see any more of it. It was about to be a murder, but yeah, good win from Julian Erosa. I guess he's won 3 straight now. Whoever he fights next, if he actually fights a good fighter, we'll see what actually happens there. But, I mean, good win. Darren Elkins, please retire. Please, do not fight again. You do not belong in an octagon. You do not belong, you just don't. Not at this point in your career, man. You need to go. Sorry for all the other stuff in the background. You know where I'm recording this if you watched my video from last week. Moving up the card. All right, let's lock in. Now we got the bigger fights here. Jim Miller, Chase Hooper. This was actually a decent fight. It was more of a grappling match, pretty much a straight-up grappling match. I mean, there was very little action on the feet. I haven't even looked at the striking numbers for this fight. Well, Chase Hooper landed 59 strikes. I mean, yeah, but 12 minutes of the fight was on the ground. Maybe even more than that. And, yeah, I mean, it was just Chase Hooper showed that he is definitely the better grappler. Jim Miller is a great grappler, second most submissions, I believe, in UFC history. And he really is a submission specialist. So is Chase Hooper. And Hooper went for what Joe Rogan called a crotch, a crotch ripper at one point in the fight. That would have been pretty great if Chase Hooper was able to pull that off. But he was pretty much stretching Jim Miller's legs out. But Miller never really let it get to an actual dangerous point in the fight because he was keeping Hooper off the right side of his hip. And but he just got out grappled. And Chase Hooper was doing a much better job enforcing the grappling positions and holding the grappling positions and, getting the advantage. Miller had his moments, and he didn't look bad by any means. He can definitely still fight at his age. He's got 5 fights until he'd hit 50. I think he's trying to get to 50. So honestly, 5 fights, 2 years, I think he could. I think he could do it. He just can't take too much damage, and they have to make his fights the right way. So hopefully he gets a decent matchup in his next fight. Good win from Chase Hooper. I'm fucking glad he finally stopped. He was like, I'm tired of fighting these old guys. He fought, Clay Guida and Jim Miller back to back. I don't know why the UFC match make him this way, but they did. He's now the young killer. But, he called out Tom Nolan. He called out Fares Ziam. He called out one other guy at lightweight. But I think it might have just been those two. He called out younger guys. So I like the call-outs. I like the Tom Nolan fight. But I also do like the Ziam fight because Ziam apparently said that he wants an unranked guy one more time before the rankings. The winner of that gets a ranked opponent. I think that makes sense. They're both on big win streaks right now, Fares Ziam and Chase Hooper. Ziam would win that fight. In my mind, I think Fares Ziam is a top 10 level lightweight. So that's a hard fight for Chase Hooper. We'll see who they give him next. Tom Nolan's also a really, really hard fight. Both those are very, very good lightweights, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, moving up the card. Yan Xiaonan versus Virna Jandiroba. Good win from Virna Jandiroba. To be honest, I thought Yan Xiaonan would do more. I got this one wrong. Actually, I haven't even been looking at my picks. Let me count what I've gotten right so far. Cano, so 3-0, 4-0. 5-0, 6-0. So I started 6-0. And then I got Yan Xiaonan wrong. We'll talk about the Dan Ige fight, which I predicted somewhat correctly. Yeah, I just felt like Yan Xiaonan didn't do enough. She should have. I mean, Jandaroba was getting off her takedowns a lot better than I thought she would. So she had a lot more success than I expected. But, I mean, she has a lot of momentum right now, so it makes sense. And Yan Xiaonan just wasn't quite doing enough on the feet when she would stay on the feet, and she wasn't doing enough to get out of those grappling positions. Now Jandaroba is obviously very strong. She's Brazilian, and, she's a little iffy, if you know what I mean. So, no. But Yan Xiaonan, she just didn't do enough. And Jandaroba was doing a good job getting in good grappling positions. She's the new number 1 strawweight contender. Good win from her. Her versus Zhang Weili is interesting. I still think Zhang Weili wins that fight. Her takedown defense is great. And Jandaroba has really not much ability on the feet. And I really do think that Zhang Weili is on a different level. But I honestly wouldn't be shocked with Jandaroba winning if they just give Jandaroba, they make her wait while Weili moves up to fight Shevchenko. Hey. Yeah, I mean, good win from Virna Jandaroba. She was doing a good job getting takedowns and forcing grappling positions, and she wasn't doing bad on the feet. And she was, she would engage in ground and pound and go for submissions. So at least she wasn't just like wet blanketing her. She was actually going for the finish. Hi, Simba. But yeah, I mean, good win from Virna Jandaroba. We'll see what happens with her next, whether it's number 1 contendership or if she's gonna have to wait for Zhang Weili or if she'll get the next matchup. So we'll see. Moving up the card to the featured prelim, Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. Okay, guys, here's my opinions on this fight. Obviously, this fight was pretty controversial, and understandably so. I'll just get right to it. The stoppage was terrible. Stoppage was terrible. Woodson was hurt, and Ige rocked him. I don't remember exactly what shot it was. It was either like a straight left or a right hand that came across, and it rocked Sean Woodson, pushed him backwards. He was wobbling on the back foot, not quite sure what to do, and yeah, I mean, it was good. It was good from Dan Ige, but Sean Woodson was not out at all. He was defending the takedown, he was going for the takedown. Sorry, I'm trying to remember exactly the finishing sequence went while this cat is climbing on my lap. But yeah, I mean, Sean Woodson, he got rocked, he got wobbled, and then in like 20 seconds went by and he had recovered. You could tell that he was mostly okay. I mean, the first round too, and the judges had it 2-0, Dan Ige. All three. That made no sense. I gave Ige the first round and Woodson the second. And I will say Woodson, his strikes didn't look like they had much on them. He didn't look very confident in his striking. He looked a little more like tentative. He wasn't really running the fight the same way he was running the fight with Padilla in his last one in Tampa, and especially what he's been doing mainly recently. Simba, oh my God, stop. But yeah, and then like Sean Woodson, I mean, after he got rocked, he was bouncing around and, he was wobbled and he was hurt. And I thought Dan Ige was going to finish it because he had Woodson against the cage and he was having a finishing sequence. And everyone was like, whoa, because Ige was one shot away. But Woodson recovered a little bit and then he got rocked again, and he shot for a takedown to get off the feet. And as he shot for the takedown, Ige maybe landed 3 to 4 strikes on the side of the head of Sean Woodson. And and the ref stopped the fight. I mean, that was a terrible stoppage. Really terrible stoppage. Wish the fight went to decision. It would have went to Dan Ige, though, and it would have been controversial, especially because some of the judges probably would have scored it 3-0, especially because he hurt Woodson in the third round. And if Woodson didn't have any bigger moments, it would have been 3-0, which a lot of people have been like, what? But Ige won. He was going to win the fight, more than likely, but still, I mean, that was a pretty bad stoppage, to be brutally honest. So, yeah. Moving up to the main card, Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Thank you, Simba. Jeez. Wow. I'm so happy that my pick was wrong. Because I believe, so at this point, I am, 7-1 on the card in my predictions. And then I was mostly accurate on the main card. I was 3-2 on the main card. So I actually had really good picks. I was 10-3 on this card. Awesome. Nikita Krylov, Dominic Reyes. So Dominic Reyes was a really, really impressive win. I was just shocked. Like, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was identical to the Conor Aldo KO. I mean, if you watch it back, Krylov throws the right hand. Like, he kind of he throws it and he dives head first in. And he throws it, but he doesn't put too much into it. And then he loads up with the left hand. And then Reyes in southpaw stance fires away with the left hand right across the middle. Chins Krylov, sends him down, hammer fist. Literally, it was literally identical. Not even mirrored. Same stances, same everything. Krylov was just kind of diving in head first. I really don't understand why he just kind of went for it against Reyes. I feel like Krylov could have had so much more success dictating the fight at his pace, which I felt like he was doing in the first minute and a half. I felt like he was doing a good job running the fight at his pace. Reyes will win fights with the fight at his pace. He's not going to win the fight on his back foot. On his back foot running around, he's not going to win the fight that way just because unless you're not active enough, if you're just kind of trying to box with him. But Krylov's a great kickboxer, and he was firing kicks. So I was hoping for that more high kicks I was hoping for from Nikita Krylov, but he just kind of dove in head first and went for it against Reyes, which I don't blame him. And also Krylov, ring rust, I get it. I didn't think it was going to be a factor. I was wrong. And I just wasn't sure that Reyes was going to do what he did, but he did it. And and he succeeded. It was a great performance from Dominic Reyes going out there getting another KO. 3 straight KOs for Dominic Reyes. We are back. It's awesome. And he's getting in true title contention now. So this is great. I think he's 2 fights away from a title. I think the Rakic fight is what makes sense. He called a few different names. He called out the Jan rematch, he called out a Yuri rematch, which doesn't make sense. Yuri needs to fight Olberg. He also called out the winner of Hill Roundtree. I think that makes sense. That was an option, but I think the one that makes the most sense is Rakic, and I also think that's a winnable fight for him. I will say Rakic is kind of similar to Reyes in terms of fighting style. He's just a little more dynamic with kicks and low kicks. But he does kind of just fire the 1-2 and maybe the 1-2-3 on the feet, while Reyes kind of is a little more boxing heavy. He does the front kick and the body kick, but he's not. Besides that, he doesn't have too much else in his arsenal. But he's winning right now, and that was an unbelievable KO. He has power in his hands. Clearly, he has power in his hands, and it's intimidating to guys. And Reyes is big. He is big for the division. You'd be surprised. I thought he was going to look a little smaller compared to Krylov, even though he's an inch taller than Krylov. I thought in terms of definition, he was going to look smaller because Reyes was a little chubby going into this fight. But he went in, and he looked bigger than Krylov. Krylov looked a little, I don't know. He just didn't look great in there, and it was a really good win by Dominic Reyes. I like the Rakic fight for him. That or the winner of Hill Roundtree, I think makes sense. But I think he's 2 fights away from a title. If he can get a win there and then get one more, maybe if they jump him up instead, maybe if they get him to number 7 or 8, and then they just jump him up against the winner of Hill Roundtree, maybe he can just get right into a title fight if he gets a win off that in that one. But yeah, I mean, great win from Dominic Reyes. He's 1 or 2 fights away from a title. That's awesome. Yeah, great win. Moving up the card. Bryce Mitchell, Gene Silva. Whew. This is a great fight. And I didn't expect submission, I won't lie. But Bryce Mitchell, man, he was making a mistake in terms of how he came out in the fight. He came out and he didn't try to threaten him with the grappling, whether it was just actually going for a takedown or it was just putting the thought in Gene Silva's head. He didn't really do that. He came out and he was like, I'm going to throw a leg kick right away at this guy. He came out a little, I want to make a statement on the feet. And that's just not what you do. But then also, Gene Silva, I have to give credit. He looked significantly better in his takedown defense. I mean, he looked so much better. And maybe that's partially because he was expecting Bryce Mitchell in this camp. He made that call out. He understands the fight. He's the one who wanted the fight. So clearly he had something that he wanted to exploit. And Bryce wasn't really engaging in grappling positions. Like, not enough in my eyes. I felt like he was just not as active as he should have been in the getting the grappling going. Like, he only waited until the last minute of the first round to really shoot in for a takedown. And I was just like, man, like, I feel like you gotta go for that sooner. Because Silva was just gaining confidence the longer the fight went on the feet. Because Bryce Mitchell's gonna throw these little tappy leg kicks, but Gene Silva's looking to sleep you. So it just wasn't enough for Gene Silva to be worried about Bryce Mitchell at all on the feet. And then towards the end of the first, he got the takedown, got top position on Gene Silva. Gene Silva went for the guillotine, didn't have it. Got up at the end of the first, though, and was, getting ready to land. And he was doing a good job of getting off bottom. Like, he'd get taken down and he would get back up, so that was good from Gene Silva, and he would get stuck in grappling positions. Like, Bryce would get a good entry on a single leg, and Gene Silva would use his balance really well and slide out and then circle back out into the middle and then get going on a striking again. So that was really, really good from Gene Silva. Massively improved, and yeah, maybe it was just because he had Bryce Mitchell in this camp, and obviously he's expecting the grappling, so he trained it more, and he's looking for it more, rather than against a Charles Jourdain, which is the fight that everyone liked to talk about in the lead up to this one, including myself, because Jourdain took him down multiple times in that fight, and he shouldn't be doing that, but I could understand. And also, Gene Silva missed weight for that fight, so maybe he wasn't fully prepared. He nearly missed weight for this fight, and I hate these fucking MMA Twitter and Instagram accounts that post that Gene Silva missed weight. Like, no other context. They just say, Gene Silva missed weight. He missed weight. And then everyone's like, oh, all this talk and you couldn't even make weight? Oh, is the fight still happening? Oh, Gene Silva, what a bum. Second time he's missed weight now. And then he made weight 30 minutes later. Like, I just don't. These fucking clickbait-ass merchants, bro. Like, you think I'm clickbaiting by fucking putting Ankalaev's the worst champ ever in my title? No. Like, I'm not one of these fucking MMA pages that are just lying to you and not giving you any sort of context on what the actual truth is. It's ridiculous. Because Gene Silva made weight and then went out there and he smoked Bryce Mitchell. To be brutally honest, even though the strike numbers, Bryce Mitchell technically outstruck him and he got a takedown, let's be real about what happened. Gene Silva was landing the better strikes on the feet. The second round, he looked great. Bryce started to back up, and when Bryce started to back up and get tired, you could tell he started to get tired. Gene Silva, that's when he went into a zone. That's where you could tell Gene Silva was about to do some real damage to Bryce, and that's what he was doing. He was nailing him with uppercuts and hooks near against the cage, but Bryce was doing a good job circling out. Gene Silva was loading up on the spinning elbow, and he was really telegraphing it, and he nearly got caught off the first time he did it. The second time he nearly got Bryce, but he was just kind of loading it up and definitely telegraphing it, but he eventually went away from that, and Bryce has left himself open, and he left his neck open. And Gene had moments where he nearly got a ninja choke on Bryce earlier in the fight, where Bryce was trying to take him down, and Gene kind of, he moved him around, and then Bryce just kind of left his neck open, and Gene's like, okay, and he just snatched up his neck. Bryce got out of it the first time. Now, the second time, he wasn't so lucky, because he caught him, and Bryce tried to get out, but he ended up putting himself in a worse position. It was too tight, had to tap, still went unconscious, and then Gene barked over his body. Or, cold, Gene Silva, hype train is real. Alright, and if you want to talk about Israel, hype train is absolutely real. And Gene Silva represented Israel in the fight. Now, here's what I'll say about Gene Silva representing Israel. Now, he's kind of stupid, okay, guys? He's a fighter. Bryce Mitchell, he said Hitler would be a good guy to go fishing with. Which one's worse? Whether or not it was before the meth in Hitler's prime, but Gene Silva did represent Israel and would, he was supporting them when I don't think Gene Silva quite knows what's going on over there right now. So he's a fighter. He's stupid. I'm not going to blame him too much. Doesn't make it what he did right. Definitely lowered my likability on him a little bit, but, whatever. Gene Silva still got a good win, and he looked really, really good out there. Fantastic performance. They could fast-track him to the title and give him, they could give him just a really quick matchup against an Ivloev or a Ortega if he stays in the division. But I also wouldn't be shocked if they give him Josh Emmett for International Fight Week or something, because Josh Emmett said he's willing to turn around quickly. He's coming off a loss. That fight was already in the works. We heard about that a while ago. Gene Silva's probably going to want to turn around quickly. He wants to stay active. He didn't get hurt in that fight, at least it looked like, as long as there's no injuries. International Fight Week, Gene Silva, Josh Emmett, put it on the card. Rufi Dariush, Kyle Whitaker or Strickland or Izzy. Probably not Izzy because I think Izzy's going to take some time off. Kyle versus Whitaker or Strickland. And you got 3 fighting nerds on the card. All right, that'd be sick. But yeah, great win from Gene Silva, and he's a real threat at featherweight, and he looked like a championship fighter. They said it on commentary. Commentary was bad tonight. I'll get to the Volkanovski fight later. And I feel like there was another fight where they were wrong. They were kind of glazing Yair, but it's whatever. Yeah, good one from Gene Silva. And he looked like a championship contender, for sure. Moving up the card, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. I tweeted it. Pitbull looked old. He didn't look aggressive. He looked timid. And he just didn't have enough for Yair. And Yair, I think the big problem for Pitbull, the kicking. He didn't, he was kind of stuck in kicking range of Yair, and that's where you do not want to be. And also the height of Yair, I think, was catching him off guard. And Pitbull's shown issues with that before. And that's a big reason why I didn't pick him in this fight, because I didn't feel like he was going to do enough to get on the inside. And obviously he could shin Yair, but I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't think Pitbull would have the power or the speed to do that. And now he looked inactive. He didn't look like the best featherweight on the planet, like he said. I feel like he could have done a lot more. And I think he should personally retire just because there's really not much for him in the UFC at this point unless he's, hoping for a few more paychecks. Do I think that he could beat a top 15 guy? I don't know. Maybe. From that performance, man, I feel like Yair's very good. But I feel like if you're really looking at the featherweight division, I feel like there are guys that, lower in the rankings that would beat Yair. And I feel like he's one of the easier guys to beat at the top of the division currently. I'd much rather fight Yair than almost anybody else in the top 7 besides Ortega, because I think Ortega for any striker is a good matchup. Because his striking is really poor. But Pitbull's not really a grappler, and he didn't really engage in any grappling. And he didn't look fast either. It was just a really dull performance from Pitbull. And Yair, commentary was kind of glazing him absolute dominance by Yair tonight. It was a good performance, and he looked good. But it was a very average performance, to be brutally honest. Very average performance. He looked good. Not very average. I'd say good performance from Yair. he didn't do like a crazy amount, and you know, he comfortably won, obviously won, and had a good performance, but Pitbull just didn't. I thought it was a lot more of Pitbull just not really engaging or looking good, and they really weren't in striking range of each other. They were like 2 feet apart from each other for the first 2 minutes of the fight. And yeah, I feel like it could have, Pitbull just wasn't engaging. Not enough, at least, to be a top featherweight. And, maybe he could beat a Bryce Mitchell. Maybe he could beat somewhere, a Calvin Kattar. Can he really beat anybody above that? No. He can't beat an Aljo. I don't think he beats Josh Emmett. I don't think that'd be a great fight. They might do that fight, honestly, but I hope not. I hope they do Emmett Silva. They might beat, he could beat Ortega, but, I think Ortega would take him down, to be honest. I just don't think Pitbull looked that great tonight, and I don't feel like he has a run in him to go and move up the rankings. I think he got his chance and he blew it, to be honest. And good win from Yair. Yair needed Diego to win tonight or yesterday for him to get the title shot. He didn't, so no title shot for Yair. I don't know why he's still calling for it. And he's like, "Oh yeah, guys, I deserve a title shot, a rematch against Volk, even though I got TKO'd in the first fight, and I've won my first fight since then after losing another one." Yeah, you're so ridiculous. He should fight Diego in Mexico. Moving up the card. Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. Oh, man, this fight was so great to watch live. Michael Chandler. Now, here's what I want to say. I watched Demetrius Johnson's fight breakdown for this card where he did the top 4 fights. And when he broke down this fight, he said something really interesting that I really agreed with going into this fight. And he said it before me, and it was, Chandler almost looks like that he just focuses on the fitness part now rather than training MMA. And he's right. Have you ever seen Chandler recently post him doing a specific grappling session? Or you can tell it's a kickboxing session, or or a straight up boxing session, or wrestling. It just seems that or clinch work, it just seems that Chandler, he does this, superhuman stuff, oh, look how good shape I am, and then he spars 3 times a week. He does light sparring 3 times a week, and then, MMA sparring, and then that's it. I feel and he just doesn't look like he trains the mixed martial arts anymore. He just looks like he focuses all on cardio and his physical shape, which is only going to do you so much. And I felt like this fight was exactly that. It looked like a guy who focused on all of his fitness and focused nothing on staying sharp. Having the quick reaction time to be able to counter strike, having the quick reaction time to, Paddy throwing a right hand, Chandler slipping under it and getting a takedown. I feel like he didn't have any of that in his head. I feel like he was just focused on his fitness, and he thought that would take them all the way. And also the age showed tonight for Michael Chandler. He looked slow. He looked tentative. He did not look ready for the fight. Paddy Pimblett absolutely dominated him. Was whooping him on the feet. Chandler was running away. He tried to land a few overhands, and then Paddy was just being more active and landing better shots on the feet, and eventually Chandler just started running away from him. Literally sprinting away in the cage. And when Paddy would get him on the ground, he would always be going for submission positions. He would always be trying to, Chandler would try to get takedowns, and he would get takedowns. He landed 4. But Paddy would reverse him, get, position. He'd get into a submission position. I just feel like he was never able to really, lock in a submission that was really in, ever. Chandler was doing a really good job of defending, which I think shows from the Oliveira fight. He's not going to get submitted. He knows how to work wrist control. But Paddy, once he got him on top and he got in mount, Chandler had nothing for him. And 12-6 elbows, man. I'm so happy that these are back in the game. Now, it doesn't matter because they were still illegal when John did it. I'm just kidding. I mean, they were, but, I'm not going to be that big of a hater. But I mean, Patty, when he was raining down those 12-6 elbows, he was absolutely brutalizing Chandler in the guard. And I felt like they could have stopped it at that point, but Patty kept going. And this was after Patty already brutalized him, bloodied him up. He got a huge cut under Chandler's left eye. And I believe he also either cut the bridge of his nose. He may have broke his nose with a knee, I believe, when Chandler was shooting in. Patty just looked great. Patty looked like a top 5 lightweight on the planet. Now, I was about to tweet that, but then I was thinking, well, there's Islam, there's Topuria, there's Holloway, there's Poirier, there's Gaethje, which I honestly think Patty could beat Gaethje. If we're looking at it, in terms of the Gaethje I saw against Fiziev, Gaethje has power. But honestly, I would see Patty submitting Gaethje. I think Patty could stick with him on the feet. I think that he would do decent enough on the feet, and I don't think he'd get cracked. He was doing a really good job of slipping out the way of Chandler's strikes. And his cardio looked great, man. Like, he just looked really, really, really good. Like, Patty really looked like one of the best lightweights. I do think that he loses to Charles, and I think he loses to a lot of the top lightweights. I'd love to see a Topuria fight, obviously, but I think Gaethje is the right matchup for him because I think that's the fight that is most likely for him to win. Just being honest. Great win from Patty Pimblett. Michael Chandler then got on the mic and immediately said, Conor McGregor, if you need someone to fight, please, we need to finish Tough 31. Please, Conor, come in here and we'll fight. We'll get it on, all right? Please, I want to get it on. Right after getting brutalized by Patty Pimblett. I'm just kidding. That didn't happen. Chandler walked out the cage, didn't say anything. He should retire, to be honest, and I wish that he retired in the cage, or he at least called out Conor, because then it would have been funnier. But, because that's what I thought he was going to do. But no. I wish he retired because he needs to. Chandler I don't think he beats anybody in the top 15 of lightweight. I really don't. He's washed, and I don't think this Patty fight showed that he's washed. I think it was honestly the Oliveira fight, in my personal opinion. After watching the Oliveira fight, I was saying it already that Chandler looked a little washed. He came in there. Obviously, some of it had to do with ring rust. But he goes in there and he wasn't really going out there to take Oliveira's head off. And he didn't rock Oliveira until the 5th round and then slammed him on his back a couple times. Woohoo, that was the fight. Chandler looked very inactive in that fight, and I knew that something was off. And I knew that this was a make-or-break performance with him, and he absolutely shit the bed. He looked terrible. He looked absolutely terrible against Patty Pimblett. Patty Pimblett dominated him from start to finish, and Patty's one fight away from a title shot. Crazy to think. Islam beats him. Charles beats him. He called out Arman. I wouldn't mind Arman. He called Arman a little posh boy. It's true. I think Arman beats him. But I think that Patty could beat Gaethje. I really do. And I think if they make that fight next, I'd pick Patty. To be brutally honest. I think I'd pick Patty at this point in their careers. And I think it's a good style matchup. And, DJ said this as well. And I'm seeing this thrown out there a little bit more. He does kind of fight like Dricus, He does kind of have that Dricus style where it doesn't look the prettiest, but he wins, and that's what matters. Great win from Patty Pimblett. We have a new lightweight title contender, and he's a star, man. Like, this is awesome for the UFC. Him and Topuria could headline a pay-per-view without a belt on the line, and it would sell. So, love it. I'm glad. Colby Covington was trying to talk shit with Patty backstage. Go fuck yourself, Colby. 3-fight losing streak. He's like, you only fight bums. Whatever. I think Chandler would beat Colby. I honestly think Chandler moving up to 170. I think, here's Chandler. Here are my next matchups for him. If Conor's not coming back, but, that's the number one matchup. If Conor does come back. Conor and Chandler. And then I'd have a couple other matchups. The Colby fight, honestly, wouldn't be that bad for Chandler. But then also a Jorge Masvidal fight. He was calling for that a little bit at the Miami card. He ended up getting the Patty fight. I honestly think he can move up to 170, and I think Colby, Jorge, I think he could win those fights. So if Jorge does end up coming back, I really do think Jorge versus Chandler is not a terrible fight for Chandler. And that he could definitely win that one. But yeah. All right. Main event. Moving up. Volk versus Diego. Guys, Volk is back. The Terminator's fucking back. All right. Now, should I do this before? Yeah, I'm going to do this before. Before I go into this fight, I want to talk about all these fucking TikTok fans on social media, all right? All you TikTok fans that have come over to Instagram to talk about this fight, you know nothing about the sport. I've seen so many people say that Diego Lopes won this fight. Diego won 3-2. Diego got robbed. Volk was running the whole fight. People are going to say that because in the last 30 seconds, Diego's like, come on, Volk, I want to stand and bang with you. And Volk's like, all right, yeah. And then he throws a right hand, dances out, lands another right hand. Diego misses 2 hooks, and then Volk lands a right hand, and then he's just dancing on the outside. And Diego's like, come on, let's stand and bang. Like, Diego had his chances to knock out Volk this fight. He had every chance to knock out Volk this fight. Now, here's what I'll say about Diego. But, yeah, anyone who thinks Diego won this fight or that Volk was running, like, shut the fuck up. Learn what MMA is. And Laurel Murphy tweeted it. Is Volk running, guys? Not the same as you. Laurel wasn't really throwing. Volk was 160 strikes to Diego's 71. Josh Emmett wasn't throwing either, so that didn't help Laurel Murphy. Volk was keeping to the outside. He was not running. And you want to talk about the first round? Volk was engaging like a fucking bat out of hell in the first 2 rounds. And he dominated the first round. Absolutely dominated the first round. And the biggest thing that surprised me in this fight was how first round, Volk immediately went out there and he went balls to the fucking wall with Diego. He got in the, inside boxing exchanges. Hold on. Before I get too much into that, I want to ask, Diego Lopes, his one way to win this fight was to win by KO. It was to win by KO. It was to go in, crazy, like he usually does against Ortega, where he'll slip and throw a bunch of big shots in a 3-punch combo in the first 30 seconds to try and put you out. And Diego was obviously trying to pace himself for the 5-round fight. But I never saw that. Now, Volk keeps himself open. But when Volk was getting into the inside boxing exchanges, Diego had every chance to knock him out. Every chance. And he was missing a lot of his shots, and Volk was the one who was winning those boxing exchanges where they got in the inside and they were trading hooks and uppercuts and overhands. Volk was winning all of those exchanges almost. Like, the one time Volk got knocked down, it wasn't because they were in a, deep boxing exchange, just because Diego caught him on the end of a right hand, because Volk, he threw out a lazy jab, and he kind of was just like, and then he had his hand, down here, and then he was like, oh, it was a jab that came back from Diego, he's like, oh, and then right here, and Diego caught him on the end of a right hand and dropped him. He was like, oh, but he got back up, because he was okay. But yeah, that was a terrible representation of what happened. But he was lazy on the jab, had his right hand by his shoulder, and Diego just caught him on the end of it. It was just a little lazy in terms of defense from Volk. And that was the only time he got caught in terms of getting dropped and getting rocked. But Volk would always get rocked occasionally in his fights. I mean, that happened before the Ilya and Islam KOs. So I'm not worried about Volk's chin, because he went out there and his chin was completely back. He took hard-ass shots from Diego. Now, Diego was landing some harder shots, and Volk was just doing Volk stuff. Landing the inside low kick, amazing jabs all night. and throwing good combos. And he rocked Diego in moments. He would rock Diego multiple times with hooks on the outside and overhands and the straight right in the boxing exchanges, man. He was catching him over the top. Volk just really, really did great and was eating a lot of Diego's shots. I was really impressed by Volk's chin and his ability to go right into the boxing exchanges and win them with Diego. Like, that was Diego's one chance in my eyes. And Diego wasn't as active as he usually is early, and I think it was obviously because he was trying to pace himself for a 5-round fight, and he showed that. Diego was dangerous all 5 rounds. I was really shocked about the way this fight went. But Volk did a great job of doing what he does, completely outstriking him, and also I want to talk about the commentary in this fight. They were glazing the fuck out of Diego Lopes. I was worried Volk was going to get robbed. Diego, they were like, well, there really is an argument for 2-2 going into the 5th. John Anik said that, and I was about to fucking break. I was at a beat-ups. I was about to fucking, like, I wanted to throw something. It actually made me so upset to hear that. Because John Anik has been pissing me the fuck off with some of his takes that he said recently. He said Justin Gaethje should get the title shot. He was talking about who should get the title shot at welterweight, whether it was Buckley, JDM, or Ian Machado Gary. And I'm like, Ian Gary lost his last fight. And then he asked Ray Longo, and Longo's like, well, who's ranked higher? And then John Anik is like, see, it's interesting that you asked that, because in my mind, I'm like, fuck the rankings. What? Anyway. John Anik has been fucking terrible recently in terms of his takes, and I really like John Anik, generally, because I want to be a play-by-play person. That is what I study in school, and that is what I want to do, and he's very good at what he does. But when he goes on his podcast and he does opinionated takes, his takes 80% of the time are fucking dog shit, to be brutally honest. But it was not 2-2 going into the 5th. I had Diego winning the 2nd. Volk won the 1st round handedly. 2nd round, he was winning handedly until he got dropped. And he did get dropped. It was close, and I understand if you give that round to Volk, but I'd give it to Diego. Round 3, Volk. Round 4, Volk. Round 5, Volk. If you give round 4 to Diego, come on, man. Round 4 was no different than round 2. It was just take out the knockdown that Diego landed, which was the only reason that Diego got the fucking round. So yeah. And then 5th round was Volk's. Yeah, I don't like, and the worst it could be for Diego was 3-2. Or the best it could be for Diego was 3-2 Volk. No other rounds besides 2 and 4 were in any way controversial, but in my mind, Volk won 4-1. 1-3-4-5, handedly. Volk looked like Volk. He went out there and he won, and he's the champ. Our king's back, guys. And he said he wants to fight relatively soon. July is going to be New Orleans, and Poirier and Holloway is going to be the main event, so I don't think there's going to be a title fight on that card. So I think Volk should fight in the co-main event of the August card in Chicago. It's been pretty much confirmed from Ankalaev. Ankalaev's been tweeting a bunch of ridiculous shit about Chicago, about his next fight being in Chicago. He's like, I'm going to dunk on Pereira, Chicago Bull style. Who likes deep dish pizza? Like, saying the dumbest shit because Ali thinks he's so clever. So I think it's going to be Pereira Ankalaev in August. For a Chicago pay-per-view. I think Ankalaev and Pereira should be the main event. Do Volk versus Evloev as the co-main. Yeah. I think Volk will be ready by that time. He did say he lost a lot of his, he lost his vision in his left eye during the fight. He did get bruised up and cut up under his eyes, unfortunately. I do think he beats Evloev pretty handedly. I think he outclasses Evloev. I think his grappling, his anti-grappling is way too good to get beat by Evloev. And I think on the feet, he would absolutely school him. And yeah, Diego Lopes should fight Yair in Mexico. I think he should come right back. He didn't look like he took way too much damage. I mean, he had a swollen left eye, but that was really it. And another dumbass take I saw on social media. I thought Damage won fights. Diego couldn't see out of his left eye. Volk, you wouldn't have known that he couldn't see out of his left eye if he didn't say it. His eye wasn't swollen shut. He had cuts under his 2 eyes. That was it. Diego had his eye completely swelled up and bruises all over his face. Whatever, man. I just hate the fucking TikTok fans that came over and were like, dick riding Diego and saying that he won and all this shit, and that Volk was running and that Volk is boring. Go fuck yourself, honestly. You have no idea how MMA works. Now, obviously, was Volk moving around a lot, and was he not engaging the most? Yes. All right, I'm not going to completely be a delusional Volk fan here. I'm going to be honest. Volk, he could have had a better performance. He's had better performances. But this was a great performance from him. This was a vintage Volk performance. Against a guy like Diego, you're not going to be able to completely outclass him, okay? And Volk, he pretty much did. He did the best he could, and he almost did completely outclass him, and he landed almost 100 more strikes. So I don't really know what else you want from Volk, but he won pretty handedly. And he had power in his shots. I'm tired of hearing the shit that he didn't have power. Obviously, Diego had more power. Volk had too. Volk had power too, and he rocked Diego twice or 3 times the whole fight. And Diego had a 5-inch height advantage, and he kind of did the same thing Holloway did against Volk, and he kind of leaned down to his height, and he didn't really try to use his range at all, which I didn't expect from. I expected that from Diego. I didn't expect him to use his range, but he probably should have in hindsight. Anyway, great win from Volk. So happy to see him back with the belt. 2-time champion. I think this cements his status as the featherweight GOAT in terms of title defenses. He's 1 title win away from matching Jose Aldo's record. Jose had way worse competition than Volk did. Volk schooled Holloway 3 times, 2 times. The second one was very, very close, but he beat him 3 times. Whether or not you want to give Holloway that other fight doesn't matter. We all saw what happened in the first and third fight, especially the third fight. This win over a guy like Diego, his only losses are 2 to Islam. One of them because of short notice, and the other one was a very, very close decision, and the other one was right after a KO to one of the best prospects, one of the best talents that we've ever seen in MMA, in Ilia Topuria. So Volk's legacy is absolutely cemented in my eyes as the featherweight GOAT right now. And Ilia's not going to pass him because he didn't do enough. So, awesome. Volk is the featherweight GOAT. I think that's pretty apparent after this fight. And 2-time champ. I really hope he does another reign. I think he beats Evloev. They're not going to do the Yair fight. There's really nobody else right now at featherweight. I love it. Maybe Aaron Pico can get a win and they'll give him a title shot. I'm excited. I'm excited for Volk's next title reign. This is going to be great. All right. We needed 314 in our lives, guys. I needed a 1-hour recap for a card like this. Well, that's going to be it for me. Thank you all for watching if you did. I greatly appreciate it. This was a fucking awesome card. And, yes, Simba. Says goodbye. All right. Thank you all for watching. Bye.